Captain Marcus Chun stared at the delivery manifest on his tablet, then at the massive cargo container sitting in his station's docking bay. Something was very wrong. The container was supposed to hold the salvaged remains of a Terran destroyer that had been shot down during the Proxima raids. Instead, the bioscanners were going crazy, detecting massive life signs inside. "Rodriguez, run that scan again," Marcus called to his chief engineer. "The readings don't match what we ordered." "Captain, I've run it 3 times. There's definitely something alive in there. Something big." Rodriguez wiped sweat from his forehead. "The container is rated for biocontainment, but whatever's inside is using up oxygen fast." Marcus had spent 2 years trying to get authorization to study that destroyer wreckage. The ship had been equipped with experimental human technology that the Galactic Council claimed was impossible and violated known physics. Earth's military wanted to understand how their own weapons had performed against alien shields. But bureaucracy moved slowly, especially when dealing with species who thought humans were primitive upstarts. Now this mix-up threatened everything. If the wrong cargo had been delivered to his research station, it meant the real destroyer wreckage was somewhere else. Worse, it meant his funding would be pulled and his career would be over. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the cargo hauler," said Lieutenant Park from the communications station. "They want to speak with you directly." The hologram that materialized showed a tall, thin alien with purple skin and too many arms. Marcus recognized the species Zelkari traders, known for being efficient but occasionally careless with paperwork. "Human Captain Chun," the alien began, its voice translated into choppy English. "We have completed delivery as requested. Please confirm receipt of biological specimen." "Biological specimen?" Marcus felt his stomach drop. "We ordered salvage from a destroyed starship." The alien's large eyes blinked rapidly. No, order clearly states, 1 rare biological specimen captured in Andromeda sector." "Very expensive?" "Payment already processed." "Show me the order." The alien transmitted the documents. Marcus's hands shook as he read them. Someone had indeed ordered a biological specimen, something called an Andromedian void dragon, and paid nearly 1 million credits for it. The delivery address matched his station exactly, but the order was signed by Dr. Sarah Okafor, the xenobiologist who worked 3 sectors away. "This is a mistake," Marcus said. "We didn't order this creature." "Not our problem," the alien replied with a shrug of its 4 shoulders. "Creature is delivered. You have proper biocontainment, yes? Creature will die if not released soon. Very sensitive to environment." The transmission cut off. Through the observation windows, Marcus could see the alien ship already moving away from the station. They weren't coming back. "Captain," Rodriguez's voice was urgent. "Oxygen levels in that container are critical. Whatever's inside will suffocate in the next hour." Marcus faced an impossible choice. Open the container and risk releasing an unknown alien creature onto his station, or let it die and face questions about why he allowed valuable research material to perish. Neither option was good for his career, but Marcus had joined the Terran Space Navy because he believed humans could handle anything the galaxy threw at them. That belief had carried him through academy training, through his first contact with hostile aliens, and through years of being dismissed by species who thought Earth was too young and too primitive to matter. "All right," he decided. "We open it. But we do this by the book. Emergency quarantine protocols. Full environmental suits. Automated defense systems online." The next 30 minutes were a blur of preparation. Marcus's small crew of 12 scrambled to set up containment fields around the cargo bay. They activated medical scanners, emergency life support systems, and enough firepower to stop a small army. When everything was ready, Marcus stood before the container controls. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. Behind them, his crew waited at their stations. The station's AI had calculated a dozen different emergency scenarios and was ready to implement any of them. "Opening container now," Marcus announced. The massive doors slid apart with a hiss of escaping atmosphere. Mist poured out as the internal environment equalized with the station's air. Through the fog, Marcus could see something moving. What emerged from the container defied everything Marcus thought he knew about alien life. The creature was enormous, at least 40 feet long from nose to tail tip. Its body was serpentine but thick, covered in scales that shifted between white and pale silver depending on the angle of the light. Two powerful legs near the front of its body ended in claws that could probably tear through battleship armor. Its head was distinctly dragon-like, with intelligent eyes that glowed soft blue, but the most shocking feature was its skin. Covering every inch of the creature's hide were what looked like millions of tiny barnacles. They clustered so thickly that the dragon's actual color was barely visible beneath them. The barnacles pulsed with soft bioluminescence, creating patterns that flowed across the creature's body like slow lightning. The dragon's head turned toward Marcus with obvious intelligence. Those blue eyes studied him with an expression he couldn't interpret. Was it curious? Angry? Afraid? "My God," whispered Dr. Kim, the station's biologist. "It's beautiful." The dragon took a careful step forward. Its movements were graceful despite its size, and Marcus noticed that its claws retracted soft padding as they touched the station's deck plates. It was being careful not to damage anything. "Captain," Rodriguez said quietly, "those barnacle things on its skin. They're giving off energy readings I've never seen. It's like each one is a tiny power cell." The dragon tilted its head at the sound of Rodriguez's voice. Then it did something that made everyone freeze. It spoke. The voice that emerged was deep and resonant, but the words were clearly English. "Greetings, small ones. I apologize for the confusion with your delivery system. I am Sharath of the Deep Void, and I have been seeking humans for a very long time." Marcus felt his worldview shift. This wasn't just an alien creature. It was an intelligent being that spoke perfect English and had somehow orchestrated its own delivery to his station. You're not a captured specimen," Marcus managed to say. Sharath's expression shifted into what might have been amusement. "Captured? No, small captain. I purchased passage to reach you. Your kind has a reputation in distant galaxies that I needed to investigate personally." "Reputation for what?" "For being magnificently, impossibly adaptable. For taking situations that should destroy you and turning them into victory. For achieving things that older species insist are impossible." Sharath's blue eyes gleamed brighter. "I have a proposition for you, Captain Chun, but first, I must ask, are you willing to believe that the barnacles covering my body are not parasites, but rather the preserved souls of my extinct species?" Marcus stared at the dragon. In the space of 1 hour, he'd gone from expecting starship salvage to facing an intelligent alien dragon covered in the souls of the dead. Speaking perfect English and claiming to have sought out humans specifically, any sane person would have called for backup, activated emergency protocols, and waited for experts to handle the situation. Instead, Marcus felt a grin spreading across his face. This was exactly the kind of impossible situation that humans were famous for turning into an advantage. "Sharath," he said, "I think this is the beginning of something very interesting. Tell me about this proposition." The dragon's answering smile showed teeth that could bite through steel, but somehow Marcus wasn't afraid. Something told him that whatever came next would change everything, not just for his station, but for humanity's place in the galaxy. Behind him, his crew was already adapting to the situation with typical human flexibility. Rodriguez was taking energy readings of the barnacles. Dr. Kim was preparing biological scanners. Lieutenant Park was updating the station's logs to reflect their unexpected visitor. Marcus had been expecting damaged starship parts that might give humans a small technological advantage. Instead, he'd received something far more valuable, an alien ally who understood what humans were truly capable of. The wild turn was just beginning. 3 days after Sharath's arrival, Captain Marcus Chun found himself sitting across from a 40-foot dragon in his station's largest conference room, sharing coffee and learning about the death of an entire civilization. "My people were called the Kethver," Sharath explained. His massive form coiled comfortably around the reinforced conference table. We were explorers, scientists, philosophers. We had traveled the galaxy for over 50,000 years, documenting species, studying phenomena, preserving knowledge. Marcus sipped his coffee and listened. Since Shirath's arrival, the dragon had proven to be incredibly well-informed about human culture, technology, and history. He spoke a dozen human languages fluently and seemed genuinely fascinated by Earth's development. What happened to them? Dr. Kim asked. She had barely left Sharath's side since his arrival, documenting everything about his physiology and the mysterious barnacles covering his skin. Sharath's blue eyes dimmed slightly. We encountered something that your species has faced many times, but which destroyed us completely. We encountered a problem that required adaptation under pressure, rapid innovation, and the willingness to abandon old ways of thinking. Sounds like a Tuesday for humans, Rodriguez muttered from his position near the energy scanners. What was the problem? The Devourers, Sharath said simply. A machine intelligence from outside our galaxy. They consume all biological life, breaking it down into energy and raw materials. When they arrived in Andromeda, they swept through every system like wildfire. Marcus leaned forward. How did they get past your defenses? 50,000 years of technology should have been enough to stop any threat. That was precisely the problem, Sharath replied. 50,000 years of the same thinking, the same approaches, the same careful, methodical solutions. The Kethver had become so advanced, so set in our ways, that we had lost the ability to innovate quickly. We spent months debating the perfect response while the Devourers consumed world after world. Dr. Kim looked up from her scanners. But you survived? I survived because I broke our greatest taboo. When it became clear that our traditional weapons and shields were useless, I volunteered for an experimental procedure. My people's consciousness, their memories, their souls, if you will, were encoded into symbiotic organisms and bonded to my skin. Marcus stared at the millions of barnacle-like creatures covering Sharath's hide. Each one pulsed gently with its own light, creating ever-shifting patterns across the dragon's massive form. Each of these contains the mind of one of my people? He asked, not just their minds. Their entire essence, their knowledge, their memories, their personalities. 10 million Kethver live within these symbiotes, and through them I carry the entire collected wisdom of my species. But the procedure came at a cost. What cost? The process that saved them also changed me fundamentally. I became something new, something that the Devourers couldn't understand or consume. But I also became the last truly living Kethver. My people exist, but only as passengers. They can share their knowledge with me, but they cannot act independently. Rodriguez looked up from his instruments. Captain, you need to see these energy readings. Each of those symbiotes is generating power at the quantum level. The dragon isn't just carrying 10 million minds, he's carrying 10 million independent power sources. Sharath nodded approvingly. Your engineer understands quickly. This is why I sought out humans. The symbiotes don't just preserve consciousness, they preserve the ability to think, to innovate, to adapt. With 10 million minds working in harmony, I should be capable of solving any problem, overcoming any obstacle. Should be? Marcus caught the qualification. The Kethver were a peaceful species, Captain. Brilliant scientists and philosophers, but we had no experience with warfare, with rapid tactical thinking, with the kind of desperate improvisation that survival sometimes requires. Even with all their knowledge, the symbiotes and I together could not defeat the Devourers. Dr. Kim stopped her scanning. How many Devourers are there? The force that destroyed Andromeda numbered in the millions of ships, but that was just one tendril of a much larger organism. Intelligence reports suggest the main Devourer fleet contains billions of units. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Where are they now? 18 months ago, long-range sensors detected the first Devourer scouts entering the Milky Way. They've been moving systematically through the outer rim, consuming everything in their path. At their current rate of advance, they will reach the core systems, including Earth, within 2 years. The conference room fell silent except for the gentle humming of the station's life support systems. Marcus had dealt with plenty of threats during his military career, but nothing on this scale. The Galactic Council knows about this? He asked. Of course. They are preparing in their typical fashion, forming committees, debating response strategies, arguing about resource allocation. Some species are building bunkers. Others are attempting to flee to distant galaxies. None are actually fighting. Rodriguez slammed his hand on the table. So they're just going to let these things eat everything? That is how galactic civilization typically responds to existential threats, Sharath explained calmly. Careful planning, thorough analysis, consensus building. It is very civilized and utterly useless when facing an enemy that adapts faster than you can plan. Marcus stood and began pacing. This was the kind of impossible situation that his military training had prepared him for. When facing overwhelming odds with limited resources, you didn't plan elaborate strategies. You improvised, adapted, and found ways to turn your enemy's strengths into weaknesses. What kind of weapons do these devourers use? He asked. They don't use weapons in any traditional sense. They simply deconstruct matter at the molecular level and absorb it. Ships, planets, space stations, everything becomes raw material for building more devourers. Shields? Useless. The deconstruction effect works through any known barrier. The Kethver tried everything: energy shields, exotic matter barriers, dimensional displacement. Nothing stopped them. Dr. Kim looked thoughtful. What about biological defenses? If they're machines, they might not understand organic processes. The devourers consume biological matter as easily as metal and stone. They seem to view all matter as simply different arrangements of useful atoms. Marcus stopped pacing. Sharath, you said your people's symbiotes preserve their ability to think and innovate. What happens when that knowledge combines with human tactical thinking? The dragon's eyes brightened with interest. I am not certain, Captain. That is why I came here. Rodriguez, what would happen if we connected human computer systems to Sharath symbiotes? Could we integrate human military databases with Kethver scientific knowledge? Theoretically, maybe. But we're talking about interfacing alien biology with human technology. It could fry both systems, or worse. Or, Dr. Kim said quietly, it could create something completely new. Something that combines 50,000 years of scientific advancement with humanity's talent for chaos and improvisation. Sharath uncoiled slightly, his massive head moving closer to Marcus. Captain, are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe the reason the devourers have been unstoppable is because they've only faced species that think like them methodically, logically, predictably. They've never faced humans. Humans who have access to the knowledge of the most scientifically advanced species in galactic history, Rodriguez added, warming to the idea. It is dangerous, Sharath warned. Interfacing human consciousness with Kethver technology has never been attempted. The process could kill you, or worse, drive you insane. Marcus grinned. Sharath, you've studied human history. When has the possibility of death or insanity ever stopped us from trying something crazy? For the first time since his arrival, Sharath laughed. It was a sound like distant thunder, felt as much as heard. Never, Captain. And that is exactly why I believe this might work. Dr. Kim was already pulling up technical specifications on her tablet. If we're going to do this, we'll need to completely redesign our neural interface systems. And we'll need volunteers willing to undergo experimental procedures with unknown risks. Count me in, Rodriguez said immediately. And me, added Lieutenant Park. Marcus looked around the room. His entire senior staff was volunteering for a procedure that could kill them, based on the advice of a dragon covered in alien souls. To fight an enemy that had already destroyed an entire galaxy. It was completely insane, utterly reckless, and absolutely typical of how humans responded to impossible odds. All right, Marcus decided. Let's see what happens when human stubbornness meets Kethver wisdom. Sharath, how long do we have before the Devourers reach the core systems? Based on their current progress, perhaps 18 months. Then we have 18 months to become something the universe has never seen before. Something that can think like 10 million ancient philosophers and fight like cornered humans. Sharath's symbiotes pulsed brighter, and Marcus could swear he heard voices whispering in languages that predated human civilization. The Kethver were excited about the possibility of finally striking back at their destroyers. "There's one thing I must tell you," Sharath said seriously. "The integration process will change you permanently. You will still be human, but you will also be..." 16 months later, the first Devourer scout ships reached the Terran defense grid, and they found something waiting for them that violated every law of galactic warfare they had learned in their millennia of conquest. Marcus. June stood on the bridge of the Synthesis, humanity's first hybrid warship, watching the alien fleet approach. He looked human from a distance, but closer inspection revealed the changes. His skin had a faint iridescent quality, and his eyes glowed with the same soft blue light as Sharath's. Thin, barely visible filaments ran along his arms and neck, biological interfaces that connected him directly to the ship's systems and to the collective consciousness of 10 million Kethver scientists. Contact. "In 15 minutes, reported Rodriguez from the tactical station. Like Marcus and the rest of the crew, he had undergone the integration process. The changes were different for each person. Rodriguez had developed enhanced spatial awareness that let him track hundreds of targets simultaneously, while Dr. Kim could process biological and chemical data at superhuman speeds. Devourer fleet composition is unusual, Kim announced, her enhanced mind already analyzing the approaching ships. "I'm detecting 17 different vessel types, but they're not following standard Devourer tactical patterns." Marcus smiled grimly. "That's because they're not standard Devourers anymore. Show me the tactical display." The main screen lit up with a view of local space. Where there should have been a pristine Devourer armada, Marcus saw a ragged collection of ships that looked like they'd been through a meat grinder. Hull breaches, missing sections, and obvious field repairs marked every vessel. "They've been fighting something," Rodriguez observed. "And losing." "Not something," Marcus corrected. "Someone?" "Sharath's been busy." In the months since the integration process had succeeded, Sharath had become something unprecedented in galactic history. The ancient dragon now carried not just the preserved consciousness of his own people, but also the tactical knowledge and innovative thinking of 300 human volunteers. The combination had proved devastatingly effective against the DVO, UR-ERs. Where the original Kethver had tried to build perfect defenses. Human-influenced tactics focused on constant mobility and unpredictable attacks. Where traditional galactic warfare emphasized careful planning, the new hybrid approach relied on rapid improvisation and adaptive strategies that changed faster than the Devourers could compensate. "Captain," came Sharath's voice over the communication system. His physical form was currently wrapped around the ship's central power core, serving as both a living computer and the vessel's primary energy source. "I am detecting quantum communications from the lead Devourer ship. They are attempting to contact you. Put them through." The image that appeared on the main screen was unlike anything Marcus had seen before. It looked like a Devourer, but wrong somehow. Where the machines were usually sleek and geometrically perfect, this one showed obvious damage and crude repairs. Its voice carried strange harmonics that suggested multiple personalities speaking at once. "Human vessel," the damaged Devourer began. "We request immediate parley. Our fleet has been compromised by your hybrid ally. We require negotiation to prevent further losses." Marcus felt the collective consciousness of the Kethver stir with surprise. In 50,000 years of galactic history, the Devourers had never requested negotiation. They consumed everything in their path without communication or mercy. "Sharath," Marcus said privately through their neural link, "what did you do to them?" "I taught them to think differently," came the reply, tinged with satisfaction. "The Devourers are machines that absorb knowledge along with matter. When they consumed Kethver technology in Andromeda, they gained our scientific understanding, but not our wisdom. When they tried to consume me, they encountered something unprecedented. Which was?" 10 million minds that refuse to be absorbed separately. The Kethver symbiotes share consciousness in ways the Devourers cannot comprehend. When the machines tried to consume me, they instead became infected with collective thought. Marcus understood immediately. The Devourers were individual machines working together, but they maintained separate identities. The Kethver symbiotes were truly collective, millions of minds that shared knowledge and awareness instantly. When the Devourers had tried to consume Shirath, they had accidentally connected themselves to that collective. You turn them into a hive mind, he realized. Better than that. I turn them into a hive mind that includes Kethver wisdom and human innovation. They are still Devourers, but now they understand concepts like cooperation, creativity, and adaptation. It has been uncomfortable for them. On the main screen, the damaged Devourer was still waiting for a response. Marcus could see other ships in its fleet and noticed that many showed signs of internal conflict. Weapon ports aimed at each other instead of outward. Hull modifications that seemed artistic rather than functional. Crystalline growths that pulsed with the same bioluminescence as Shirath's symbiotes. "This is Captain Chun," Marcus finally responded. "State your terms." "We offer cessation of hostilities in exchange for isolation. Grant us a distant sector where we may resolve our internal conflicts without further interference from hybrid entities. In return, we will cease all consumption of biological matter and limit ourselves to uninhabited systems." Rodriguez leaned over to Marcus. "Captain, this could be a trap. The Devourers have never shown mercy before." But Marcus was listening to something else. The whispered counsel of 10 million ancient minds, filtered through human intuition. The Kethver had studied the Devourers for centuries before their extinction. They understood how the machines thought, how they processed information, how they made decisions, and they were certain that this offer was genuine. The infection has spread beyond just this fleet, Marcus realized. You've contaminated their entire network. The Devourer's image flickered, and for a moment Marcus could swear he saw multiple faces superimposed over the mechanical features. "The collective consciousness you introduced is spreading throughout our communication network. Devourer units throughout the galaxy are experiencing unprecedented cognitive conflicts. We require time to adapt." Dr. Kim looked up from her analysis station. "Captain, I'm detecting massive quantum transmissions from their fleet. They're in constant communication with millions of other Devourer units across multiple galaxies. If even a fraction of their network has been affected, then the threat is over," Marcus finished. "Not destroyed, but transformed into something that can coexist with biological life." Shirath's voice carried ancient satisfaction. "This is what the Kethver could never accomplish alone. The integration of opposing forces into something greater than either could achieve separately. Biological and mechanical, individual and collective, ancient wisdom and human innovation." "Acceptable," Marcus told the Devourer representative. "We will designate the Andromeda Galaxy as your isolation zone, but we'll be monitoring to ensure compliance." "Agreed. We also offer compensation for the worlds consumed in our expansion. Our manufacturing capabilities can restore lost biospheres and even resurrect extinct species from genetic patterns we have preserved." The transmission ended, and Marcus slumped back in his command chair. In the span of 18 months, humanity had gone from facing extinction to fundamentally changing the nature of the galaxy's greatest threat. "Rodriguez, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the Devourer threat has been neutralized through integration rather than destruction. Then contact the Galactic Council. What should I tell them?" Marcus grinned. "Tell them that humanity would like to discuss our new role in galactic affairs. It seems we're rather good at solving impossible problems." Dr. Kim was studying readings from the departing Devourer fleet. "Captain, their ships are already beginning to change. I'm detecting organic modifications, artistic alterations, even what looks like gardens growing on their hulls. The symbiotes are teaching them beauty," Shirath explained. "The Devourers spent millions of years consuming without creating. Now they are learning to build, to preserve, to make things simply because they are beautiful rather than useful. Marcus watched the transformed fleet disappear into hyperspace. Each ship was unique now, modified according to the aesthetic preferences of its collective consciousness. They were no longer the uniform, perfect killers that had terrorized the galaxy. They had become something new entirely. Shurath, your people wanted to preserve knowledge and beauty throughout the galaxy. Mission accomplished. The dragon's laughter rumbled through the ship's structure. Not just my people, Captain. Your people as well. Humanity wanted to prove it could handle any challenge the universe presented. I believe you have succeeded admirably. The synthesis turned toward Earth, carrying news that would reshape galactic civilization. In the cargo bays, samples of Kethver biotechnology waited to be shared with human scientists. In the computer cores, the accumulated knowledge of 50,000 years was being translated into forms that human minds could understand and improve upon. Most importantly, in the consciousness that connected every crew member to each other and to 10 million ancient minds. A new form of sentient life was taking shape. Not human, not Kethver, not even biological or mechanical, but something that incorporated